Hi, I'm Krista West. I'm the owner and designer of Folk Embroidery, and this is a very special floss tube. In this floss tube, I want to tell you all about my new book, Everyday Folk, over 175 folk embroidery designs for the home inspired by traditional textiles. I am so excited about this book coming out and that I get to share all of these wonderful designs and techniques with you. And I thought in this floss tube, it would be really fun to show you every single one of the sample projects from the book and talk to you about the structure of the book. I know for myself, when I'm looking at adding a book to my craft library and my reference library, I want to make sure that that book really earns its spot on the shelf and that it has information that I can refer to, in the coming, years. And I'm really hoping that my book will earn that spot on your shelf. I've really worked hard to make this a book that is both inspiring and also I hope it becomes a treasured resource for people. So let's talk a little bit about it. Before we jump in, for those of you who are new, I'm Krista West. I am the owner and designer of Folk Embroidery. You can see most of my work, actually pretty much all of my work, at my website, which will be in the notes. You can follow me on Instagram, and you clearly found me here on YouTube. So let's dive in. So the backstory to the book. I have been stitching folk embroidery designs for about 17 years now. I was introduced to Greek folk embroidery on a work trip to Greece by a friend and fell madly in love. Actually ended up stitching folk embroidery in my hotel room the first night that I actually discovered it. Bought supplies, started stitching, stitched on the plane ride home, and just started asking all of my friends in Greece to share photos. And everyone was so generous. So many people in Greece that I have encountered, they are thrilled to see these traditional designs be shared with a whole new generation of stitchers and makers and crafters. And so I began stitching folk embroidery, and I have stitched pretty much almost every day since then. I began by creating designs for my home, and I kind of thought at first it was just my own little textile nerdy thing that I was just into. I was really like the geometry and the repeating designs and the all over repeat patterns and things like that. But as time went on, friends and family started commenting, wow, what are those? Those are really unique. And I realized that there might still be interest in the traditional craft of folk embroidery. So in late 2017, I opened Folk Embroidery. And I opened with just a few designs. I think I had maybe 8 designs to begin with. And since then, I've been stitching and adding designs, and I now have over 100 designs at Folk Embroidery. And it's been a wonderful journey. I've met so many amazing people. And I've had so many wonderful stitchers discover patterns and message me and email me, and it's just been wonderful. However, last year, something not so wonderful happened. In early 2023, I was biking to the pool. How ironic is that? And I broke my foot. And my doctor told me I had to be completely off my foot for 2 months. I was heartbroken. I'm a very active person. I had trouble even getting down the stairs into my workshop. I had to be in a walking cast on crutches. And about a weekend, I thought, I'm going to go crazy. I mean, after a week, even that much stitching time was getting to me. And I was like, I've got to have something to do. I need a big project to just sort of, really focus on during this time of recovery. And I thought, well, I've been really thinking about a book for a while now. And I was like, let me see if I could pull together a book. Do I have enough information? Do I have enough patterns? So I started working on it, and the project just took off. In some ways, it's kind of funny. I mean, I know I did the work, but it feels so much like the book wrote itself. I went through my files, my folders and everything, and I had so much material that I had collected over the years, not just from Greece, but from all other countries, because I've been collecting vintage embroidery patterns and vintage embroideries, all folk embroideries, for well over 10 years now. So my private collection is quite large. And I used those as inspiration. I emailed friends in Greece for suggestions and all of that. And so I started compiling all of that together into the book. Now, when I started compiling that, one of the first things I really wanted the book to have was to be very resource-oriented. I wanted it to have a big library of designs at the back. So let me show you that section. It's kind of funny. We'll go like back to front, I guess. So in the very back of the book it's actually not the very back. It's like the whole last third of the book is all of these patterns, tons and tons of patterns in various styles. Some are repeating patterns. These are centered border patterns, centered band designs. There are lots of those. There are double-ended border designs. I'll talk about those more in a minute. There are single motifs that you can use for single projects. And then oodles and square borders, I forgot about that, or perimeter borders, as I call them in the book. And then a whole bunch of, if I can find them here, a whole bunch of smaller borders that you can use for all sorts of projects. So that was one of my first things, was to try and collect together so many of these designs that I've seen in many different cultures, many different places now. It's very common in folk embroidery to see a design in Greece and then see it pop up again in Ukraine or Latvia or Romania. It's one of the things I love the most about folk embroidery is that it's so shared across so many cultures. And I really love that element of it. So to use these designs in the back, the design library, there are very, very handy repeat boxes around every single chart has a repeat box. So that if you want to design your own piece using one of these charts, you've got the exact repeat box. So you can just keep repeating that element over and over and over again until you reach your desired width or length of your project. And you're like, wait, that sounds like too much math. No, I've got you covered on that too. So the other thing that's in the book that I put a huge amount of effort into, and I don't know if I can actually find it right now. It's in here. Oh, here it is the wonderfully handy design worksheet. So this is basically a worksheet where you can take whatever size fabric you have, whatever size design you have, and what you want to make, and you plug the numbers in here to be able to create your own design. I was pretty excited about this one. There's both a simplified version and a more complex version. So that's in there too. So I really, really wanted it to be a resource book that people would put on their craft library shelves and think, okay, this is something I'm going to pick up when I'm wanting to look for inspiration or design. But I also wanted the book to appeal to beginning stitchers or stitchers who just didn't have the time to do that or didn't have the inclination to do that. They're like, just give me a project. So in the book also are 14 essential projects. And these I'm pretty proud of. Let's see here. We've got all the information like you have in any craft book that tells about tools and supplies and all that good stuff. And then there's also a really, really great chapter on the different types of the design styles in folk embroidery. So I kind of put those into 6 different categories, and I was really happy with that. And then David and Charles came up with this amazing idea to add these little symbols so that, for example, all over repeating designs have one little symbol, centered band have another, perimeter border have another, small borders have another. Oh, it was just a great idea. Their graphic designer came up with it, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want. So then there are all of the projects, and there are 14 essential projects. And in these projects, which I'm going to show you all the samples in just a minute, I wanted to use the projects as a way of exploring as many different styles of folk embroidery as possible. So you could either just say, oh, I love the Brindisi Diamonds table mat, and just do that. And maybe that would get you started on your folk embroidery journey. Or you could be, oh, I want to do them all so that I can experience traditional ground cloth, or I can experience Mickey fabric, or I can experience counted thread linen. So there's a little bit of everything. And in addition to the project, so every project in the book has its full chart, both a close-up, actually this one has the full chart. The larger designs have both a close-up chart and a, like this one, like the Cerulean scrolls table. It has a close-up chart for ease of working, and then a full-size chart to show you exactly how many repeats to work. So those are the charts. And you're looking at this and you're going, but they have that pretty finishing at the hem. Or, oh, you can see the cushions behind me. I've got you covered there too. So I did an entire chapter on finishing. And on the finishing chapter, oh, this one too. I was so excited about that picture. I love that picture of my little wall hanging. Love, love, love it. Their photos were great. Fun fact, we had to ship all the samples to London, and it had to get their, wait for it, beauty photos. That is actually what they call them. I love that. I just love that all of my little embroideries had to go travel all the way to London to get their beauty photos. I loved how David and Charles staged the designs to really show the intricacy of the stitching and all of that. Okay, so then there is an entire chapter on finishing techniques, on how to work a drawn thread hem with step-by-step photos. While David and Charles did all of the beauty photos, I did all the step photos here in my workshop in Salem, Oregon, because as I was finishing each project, I could then take a photo of this step and then do the next step and take a photo of the next step. So there's photos there on how to sew a cushion cover, how to make a wall. Oh, and then the new, very excited, the mitered cushion, which I'll talk about in just a minute, the mitered border cushion cover, which is fantastic. And then also how to make a wall hanging, how to do banding for clothing, how to sew a little drawstring bag. So that's how you do it. And then all the finishing is in here, walking you through step by step. For those of you who are new here, most of my career in the textile and garment industry was as a custom tailor for Greek Orthodox communities. And in that work, much of what I did was write what are called operations notes. Because when you're working on custom tailored items, you are literally reinventing the wheel on every project. And so to communicate with my seamstresses, to communicate with clients, I did a lot of sketching and operations notes. And so it's really something that I like doing. I like trying to explain how to do something in the clearest way possible. So I was actually very happy with my instructions in here. I think they're clear, they're concise, and they'll really pretty much hold your hand through that whole step if you've never finished a folk embroidery. So that's the book. Let's get on to the projects, the real fun. Okay, I don't know if I can do them in order, so I don't think I'll try. The first project, and then the other thing I want to tell you while we get into the projects is how, because I know people are going to ask, how did we stitch the samples? Well, I did something kind of backwards in all of this. I actually wrote the entire book, had most of the samples in process, and then reached out to a publisher. I only learned afterwards that most people don't do that. Most people float an idea, and then publisher says, oh, hey, that's a great idea, and then you go do the work. But it worked out great, because by the time we got through to the whole publisher book contract part of things, we had almost all the samples stitched, which meant there wasn't this panicky period of getting everything done. And to do the samples, I reached out to a number of Avlia customers and friends, and there were 7 of us who, I think it's 7, who worked on the project. So everyone, I'm going to tell you who stitched it. And with all of us working together, we got all of these samples done in 3 months, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, I have not done the full tally of the stitch count, but it's well over 150,000 stitches of samples. So first up is the Brindisi Diamonds table mat. This is a fabulous all-over design on traditional ground cloth, which is a 26 count, 100% cotton fabric. It's stitched in a really cheery palette of terracotta, coral, kind of a terracotta color, the light alizarin, kind of coralish, soft coral color, and 2 shades of green. One thing I should mention is we did choose a specific palette for the entire book so that everything would harmonize, and I believe I used 14 colors. It's 14 colors that are very close to the traditional Mediterranean folk embroidery color palettes that are used in traditional embroideries. But for some things, I kept it to a very sort of traditional look, and for other things, I kind of mixed it up a bit to give a little more modern effect. This one's pretty classic. I love this design. It's small. It's a great first project. It's the first project in the book, and it was stitched by Maria Armstrong. Now, next up is the Cerulean Scrolls perimeter border table square. This is just Oh, love this design. I actually loved this design so much it was hard for me to actually give it to the book. There were some of these designs that I was like, ooh, I want to save that for the Avlia website. But then I was like, I have to let it go. It has to go in the book. And this one was stitched by Elizabeth Osler. And this is on 30 count linen in an off-white color. And this has a very blue color palette. This is the 924 gray-green medium, or sorry, gray-green dark, along with the 926 gray-green medium, and then these little punchy bits of 598 turquoise, just to kind of bring that out. It's a really, really great design. This is one that could be made to the size that's specified in the book, but it would also be very easy to make this either rectangular or an even larger square. That's Cerulean Scrolls. Next up is Thessaly Chevron. Thessaly Chevron is a classic centered border design. So this is the kind of design where it's usually a mirrored or confronted design, and it's basically mirrored top and bottom. I love these centered border designs. This is a classically Greek design, but it's also seen in Romania and Ukraine and Yugoslavia. A lot of these countries do these centered band designs. They're very effective as table runners because you can work them just as long as you want them. You could work them shorter or longer. They're really, really great. If you really are looking for a big project, you can also use these at either end of a table runner. You can do like part of the band on one end and part of the band on the other. And that's a layout that's seen in a lot of countries that do folk embroidery, and that's a fun layout. This one is actually stitched in the terracotta and the rosewood dark and the alizarin with little hints of 3787 brown gray, very dark, I think is what that one's called. Or maybe it's just brown gray dark. And then the 733 golden olive, just to give that little bit of punchy kind of gold tone to it to soften the reds a bit. Beautiful table runner design. This was stitched by Cindy Russell. My sample stitcher stitched everything, but I actually did all the finishing. So all the drawn thread hemming that you see, because we wanted it all like very, very even. So all the drawn thread hemming, all the cushions, all of that, I did all the finishing. Oh my word, that was a monster, a few weeks getting all that finishing done. So Thessaly Chevrons is the next essential project. Then, I'm trying to keep them in order. Then the next one was the Evian Terrazzo cushion cover. The Evian Terrazzo is really fun because those of you who have been following me on Avlia know that I have been playing around with using Appleton's crewel wools in a few designs, especially things on cushions, because it gives you this kind of velvety texture. It's got a little bit more fill than a DMC floss. Oh, and I probably didn't mention that, but all of the designs, except for this one, are stitched with DMC 100% cotton 6-strand embroidery floss. Now, Evian Terrazzo was stitched by my workshop assistant, neighbor, and friend, Pamela Filbert. She did an amazing job. And it's funny, when I sent this off to them, I was thinking of it in this orientation because I'm thinking centered band. But when they shot the photographs for the book, they did it this way, and I actually liked it even more. I really love the kind of boldness of this design. And this is done in 2 tones of Appleton blues with a really nice rich gold color to kind of make those blues pop. And then we lined it with the Aegean stripe fabric just for a little bit more blue. We are offering sample kits at the website that will be sample kits for each of the essential projects. And for all of the cushion covers, I believe, maybe except for 1 or 2, when the cushion cover has a specific fabric that coordinates with it, that fabric will come in the supply kit because we wanted you to have everything to exactly replicate what was in the book if that's what you wanted. So Evian Terrazzo, great design. This is again another center border design, but a really great example of how a fairly small border, this is not a lot of stitching, I believe it's around 5,000 stitches, like fills this pillow and makes a great statement. You don't have to commit to like stitching 20,000 stitches to get folk embroidery in your life. There's a lot of really great smaller projects, and I tried in the book to try and make a real spectrum of projects for that reason, so that you could do something small, or you could do something big, or something in between. So that's the Evian Terrazzo pillow. Now, next up is the Linden Leaves table runner. And this one's kind of funny. It's really, really shortly hemmed at the end because I had sent it to Maria Armstrong and she stitched this one as well as the Brindisi diamonds. And I had actually specified on the chart to work 5 repeats, and she ended up working 7 because I had sent her an extra big piece of fabric and it looks so good. I was like, okay, let's just leave it at 7. It looks terrific. So this is another centered band design, and this is worked in 2 shades of blue. So very typical of a lot of Eastern European folk embroidery that uses just like 2 shades of red or 2 shades of blue or like a red and a black for these kind of embroideries. Just a beautiful design with these lovely little scrolled leaves set in these strong diamonds with then just a really delicate little outer border. Really beautiful design. That is stitched with DMC floss. The 924 gray green very dark and the 926 gray green medium on 30 count linen. So that's Linden Leaves. That's that one. Now I think we should probably grab some of the cushion covers. So this is the first one. This was stitched by Rachel Marks. Is that right? I think that's right. Rachel, if that's not right, please forgive me. I should have had my list right here with me. But this is Rachel Marks, and this is a design that I had in an old Romanian booklet, but I also have seen it in Ukrainian designs, and so we named it Odessa Tulips. And this is just a block design, but it shows how you can take a single motif and you can tile it together to create a really beautiful cushion. So that is just a gorgeous design. This is actually worked in 2 shades of the 924, the 924, the 926, and then the 3857 Rosewood Dark and the 355 Terracotta. And I really, really loved how those colors played together. And that's stitched on the 30 count linen. I just think this is such a great example. And the linen, if you're going to stitch a cushion that you're going to only stitch like in the center, the linen is so great because all of your negative space just has a lovely, lovely linen-y texture. So I loved this. This is another one of the like smaller designs. You could even do this on a bigger piece of fabric to make a bigger pillow, and I think it would still have a lot of really great visual impact. So that's Odessa Tulips, stitched by Rachel. At least we think it's Rachel. I'm hoping it's Rachel. Let's see here. I'm going to move that one down here. The next cushion cover is Chrysanthi. This is a design from a Greek island bed tent curtain from the 1800s that I adapted for the book. I love this design. I stitched this one. This is on the Mikini 26 count 100% cotton. This is a fabric that is frequently used in Greece when stitching household items like cushion covers because it's very durable. The other thing I really love about this is another one that actually is not a lot of stitching. I want to say this is like under 7,000 stitches. I think this only took me like a couple weeks to stitch up. It was really fast, but so much visual impact. And on this one, I really let the 733 golden olive color really kind of be very, very gold forward with the blues in sort of a supporting role. And I was really happy with it. Chrysanthi in Greek, Christos in Greek means gold, and Chrysanthi is a girl's name that means like golden one in Greek. And so I thought that was a great name for this one. Great cushion cover. This one we actually did with the, I actually used the Essex blue, dusty blue, the Essex dusty blue to do the cushion back cover for it. I really liked that together. So that's the Chrysanthi cushion. Let's see here. I'm going to do another cushion here. We'll finish out the cushions. The next cushion that's in the book is Naxos Stars. I also stitched this one. This Naxos, I've been playing around with designs from the island of Naxos in the Greek islands for a number of years. And they are typically very red forward designs that feature repeating patterns. And I had wanted to do an adaptation of something like this for a long time. I was so happy with how this turned out. For this though, this kind of design required a very heavy stitch coverage on the fabric. This is stitched on 30 count linen in the vanilla color. And it's stitched with just two colors, just the rosewood dark and the terracotta. But the effect is so bold. I mean, this is such a statement. But the thing is with an embroidery that has so much stitch coverage, if I were to continue stitching that design all the way out to the edges of the pillow, it'd take me like 4 months to make a design like this. I wanted for the book to develop a technique that would allow you to use these more really intricate, high stitch coverage kind of embroideries and really showcase them without having to commit to stitching this like enormous pillow. So I developed this mitered border, and it's really not that hard. I walk you all through how to choose the measurements. It's got a little cheat sheet in there. You just plug in the measurement of your cushion cover, plug in the measurement of your embroidery. And then I've got step-by-step photos of how to just do the miter. And it's not difficult at all. This is a great way to use up some of your smaller projects that maybe you have lying around and you're like, well, it's not really big enough for anything. Well, turn it into a mitered cushion cover. And this is a big one. This is like an 18 by 18 inch cushion, but you could take a little tiny bit of embroidery and do the mitered cushion border and make like a little 12 by 12 pillow. I mean, this technique I just feel like is a really, really great technique. The fabric that I use for this is the Essex cotton linen in Bordeaux, in that color. That's the Bordeaux color. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but I stitched this one. And it was a joy to stitch. I had a lot of fun stitching that one. Okay, we're gonna put that back there. Oh, let's put the pillows back so that we can enjoy them. So, next up of the essential projects is the, I think it actually is the wall hanging. So this is the Dodecanese ornamental wall hanging. It is stitched on 32 count parchment linen. It's the only 32 count project in the book, but I really, really loved the color. And so that was why I chose that linen. It just went so well. This is a design from a bed tent curtain from a Greek island bed tent curtain from about the 1800s. And these designs on those traditional bed tent curtains would be worked multiple of these big designs down the sides of where the bed tent curtain opened. So, which is quite an impressive feat when you consider this guy right here is like 8,000 stitches. This one took me a little bit of time. Also very heavy coverage, but very elaborate. And it just makes a great wall hanging. Wall hangings are used all over Greece. You see them a lot in homes. And I really like them they're a great substitute to framing your embroidery because they're just a little bit more immediate. It's like you can see that fabric and it's not like behind glass. So I'm a big fan of wall hangings. And this one I just thought, it just kind of reminded me of those textiles, those bed tent curtains and those like having that kind of textile beauty in your home. And so this one actually also has the instructions for how to turn it into the wall hanging, how to use the little casing, how to create the little casing. It's so easy. And then we just use these little tapestry rods that open up at one end and you just slide the embroidery on and you are good to go. This one is I stitched in 469 avocado with little highlights if you can see those of the 926. Was it the 926? Yeah, the 926. I couldn't remember if I used that one or the turquoise. So that's that one. Then, let's see. The next thing that's in the book, I wanted also to show everyone how to do some practical stuff with their embroidery, stuff they could actually like use or small gifts. So there are two bag projects in the book. One is the Cecile Border little drawstring bag. This is a great little bag for eyeglasses or your tools. I always keep my embroidery glasses, my magnifiers in one of these in my stitching basket. But they also make a really easy and quick gift. And this is a larger one. I forgot to mention. The Cecile Border, I stitched it. It's on the 30 count vanilla linen. And it's lined with Essex linen. But for the kit, we can't get this color right now. So for the kits for the book, we'll be including Kona cotton, which is very, very similar in color. This bag technique is one that I first learned in Greece, and it's really cool. You basically make your embroidery flat, all laid out flat, and then you sew the lining to it all around the perimeter. You turn it inside out, and then you fold it in half and stitch the sides and put your casing in. It's a really, really neat technique, and it creates this really cool kind of almost like piping look on the edges that I really like. So that's the Cecile border. Then we did a larger version. I stitched this one too, and this is on the traditional ground cloth, 26 count, 100% cotton in white. In the book, oh, if I can find that. I don't know that I can find the page right now, but in the book, they have two different colorways for the chart. They had me develop two different colorways. So there is this blue and green colorway, and then there's also a red colorway so that you can choose. Now for this one, I actually used a contrasting cotton fabric for lining. It's this really beautiful paisley color, or paisley print, I should say, from Robert Kaufman. And we have just a little bit left of it. So the supply kits will actually include that. I made bias tape cords or strings for this one. But I have to say, now that I've been doing more of these bands, I've become a big fan of actually just taking my leftover DMC floss and making braids and using braided cord for these bags. So you can do that too if you don't want to make bias tape. It's actually really easy. Okay, so there's that bag, the oak leaves, Cecile border. The last bag in the bunch is really fun. This is a laptop bag, and this was actually stitched by Deborah Mahasos. And on this one, we used a really cool set of borders. I wanted to show with this design how you could take multiple borders and put them together into one project. So this is a border, that's a border, that's a border, and that's a border. And I created one half of it, and then I mirrored it. So you have this really, really cool effect. Deborah actually made this for her husband. And then this one has the technique, the finishing technique is similar to the drawstring bag, but instead of a cord going through the top through a casing, this one has a button and loop closure. So this is great for anything flat. This would be great for a tablet cover. You could make it a larger one as a laptop cover or a little notebook cover or something like that. It would be a great gift item. And again, very easy, and it's nicely lined. This one is lined with the Kona cotton. So it's like fully lined in there, protects the embroidery on the inside. You can see that. Really, really nice. And we are on the home stretch. The last project, is that all of it? Okay, the last one I'll show you is the one from the very front cover of the book, the kind of main front and center one. And this is a beautiful design. This is Santorini Botanica. I stitched this one. It's stitched on 26 count traditional ground cloth with DMC floss using not all of the colors, but almost all the colors. And this is what we call a double-ended table runner. So you have a design that's on one end that's then mirrored or confronted on the other end. This features a classic urn shape worked in that brown gray, that kind of faded ink color, with a profusion of serrated carnations and little flowers and florets and little sort of little golden olive touches here to kind of almost look like brass. It's a really, really great design with a really nice kind of classic little outer border. These outer borders that I typically use on my double-ended table runner designs are actually, they're beautiful, but they're also very practical because they make it much easier to get over to the other side and count where you start this. And this one I intentionally designed to be quite simple so that it would work up fast and just get you over to the other side. So that's the Santorini Botanica. Again, on 26 count traditional ground cloth in the natural color. And that is all the samples. So I really hope that you might consider ordering the book. You can pre-order now. This FlossTube will release in July of 2024, and the book will be shipping out in mid-August of 2024. But I want you to know that my goal for you is that you just get to experience folk embroidery however you want to experience it. If you want to just dip a toe in, if you want to jump all the way in, however you want to do that, I really hope this book will be a wonderful resource for you to experience and enjoy traditional folk embroidery. And if you make stuff from the book, we'd love to see your photos. You can tag me on Instagram. You can tag Avlia Folk Embroidery, Or you can also, we have a forum at the Avlea website where people can show their work. And you just load in a picture of your work, maybe a quick caption, and you can show us what you've made. And I would love to see what you've made. So, looking forward to seeing your creations. Thank you so much for joining me.